The hero lies in you, that strength within. Our theme this month was about being stewards of our good Mother Earth, that we are here to take care of it. And I was thinking, as I was listening to that song, that, you know, that strength that's rising up in the youth and the incredible movement that happened over the weekend where around the world, the youth and so many others were standing up and coming together and saying that it's the time is already here. We need to show up. We need to find the strength within ourselves in order to take care of this planet that is providing us the resources that allows us to live here. And so I think it's important that each and every day that we wake up to the awareness that it's always within us. It's within the individual to find that strength and that power in order to continue on and, you know, to move through whatever challenge, whatever chaos seems to be showing up. And we know that it's easy to look out there into the world and see a lot of chaos that's happening. And yet we can find our place within that to bring forth a greater good for ourselves, and not only for ourselves, but for all others. Today, the theme for the day in the Science of Mind Daily Guide was to respect our differences. And when I considered what that would mean, I was looking at, you know, the first thing that came to mind was all the differences that show up in our experience of people and activity and engagement that's going on. And I thought, you know, so, you know, I don't know about anybody else, but when I look out there and I see the things that I don't like, the things that I don't agree with, the things that I think that are wrong, and then I read the message says respect our differences, I'm like, why? You know? There are things that are going on and people are behaving in ways that I don't agree with. I don't want to respect that. You know, so I had to, like, you know, come to terms in a metaphysical way that says, okay, well, how do I approach this? How do I take this message? How do I take this daily guide and bring it forth into a way that has some meaning and some purpose and some understanding? And I can only speak of my own experience, because really that's all I know. I don't know anything else, and I never propose to claim that I know anything else. That I only know my own life experience and where I am and how I'm moving through what's happening in the world and then the environment around me. And I know that oftentimes that there has been a lot of chaos going on. And I know that oftentimes people find themselves in chaos because they're coming out of a place of fear. And this is what I have recognized so much recently, is that there's a lot of fear that's being stirred up. And this isn't the first time in civilization that this has happened. This happens to be a technique that is being used by human beings all the time in order to bring about some control, some power, some influence over others. Is they bring forth this idea of fear, because if they can get you to be in a place of fear, then they can manipulate you, they can manage you, and they can control you. So it's a tool that is being used in order to perhaps get their own way, or to get what it is that they believe is right in the world. And as I said, you know, I don't always agree with what other people are thinking or the way in which they're behaving. I know that if everybody were to follow the way that I think, that all things would be whole, perfect, and complete. but that's not so. And so I have to step out into life and find a way in which I can be at peace, that I can find in my world, in my experience, a way in which I can move forward and still be in that place of joy and happiness and love, because that's what I desire in life. I just want to get along with people. I just want to get along with life. I just want to get along with, what's going on in the world. And I know that there are some things that I can't change, but what I can change is the way in which I perceive things, the way in which I move through and have an experience. I have a colleague who's in a position in corporate world where her position is she works for someone who's like half her age. And if you've been in that experience, and I find myself in my other employment in that same way, that I work with a team of people and I'm the elder. And yet I'm on the lowest rung of the ladder in the corporation, in the organization that's going. And so I do a lot of observation as I sit around and I recall myself in those younger years where I knew that I knew everything. And then I observed myself in my mature years and realized I don't know anything, but my experience. I know my experience. I know what I had to go through to get to where I am today. And so I'm observing as these people are moving through their experience to get to where they need to be today. What that allows for me to do is to oftentimes, if I'm present and if I'm observant and if I'm carefully listening, then I can interject in a time and a place some wisdom of having gone through an experience that they may be finding themselves in for the first time. And I know that I've been there many times. And so just to offer them some insight at some point without making any other announcement about it other than to just interject an insight and see the reaction and the change that's happening with that. I believe in that, in my experience of growing up in the 60s, that at that time when we were we were the young, we were the youth, we were the rebels, we were the revolutionary ones that was going to change the world. And now, in our later years, we realize we're the ones responsible for having changed the world. So whatever's going on today, we're accountable for that. And now we've got a new generation coming forth that wants to change it again. And I'm like, please do change it. And if I can interject an insight or two here and there, perhaps it'll be better. And that's always the goal, is that we're always trying to improve upon that what we have in life and taking our experience and allowing others to grow in their experience and give them a little bit of interjection. And I do that as I recall those people that were my elders at that time interjecting into my life. And I was always saying, no, I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to hear anything that you have to say. But has anybody else have the experiences like, oh, I'm turning into my parents? So we still hear that still small voice, and I hear my father often, saying, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it, and so little tidbits that keep showing up in my life that remind me just before I'm about to tell somebody, particularly a younger person, of what they should be doing. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to do this with a little bit more awareness of where I am today. So this idea of respecting the differences, the first thing that comes to mind is the difference in the uniqueness that each of us has, and the diversity of what we have, and the way in which the world is showing up. And it's more this conglomerate of people coming from all over the world, from all sorts of experiences, from all sorts of backgrounds, from different religions, from different races, different cultures, different everything being mixed into the life of which we are sharing. And so there's some idea of respecting that difference so that we can at least be able to understand that we're all coming, we all often come from a different place. So there's that difference that we can look at. The other thing that showed up for me was about respecting the difference of who I am, respecting the differences of myself. So I went back and I began to contemplate and think about the differences of who I am and where I've come from in life. Though I'm not the same person that I was when I was 20, I am the same I am that I am. And so I had to realize that there's that part of me that is different than I may show up as of today. You know, there's that difference of the child that was growing up in a small town in Iowa as to this person that now, lives in a community in Palm Springs. It's a different geographical location, it's a different culture, it's a different time, and it's a different place. So I have to respect myself and all those previous incarnations that I've gone through into where I am today. And if I can do that, if I can look at myself and look at my being of who I am now, having gone through all of those different experiences and expressions, then I have a better insight as to how I may interact and respect you. Because I can now see that you too have gone through a number of experiences and a number of different exchanges that are probably different than what I have, but they brought you to where you are today. And so we get to show up in this thing called the beloved community. We get to show up together in this time, in this place, and all the things that are going on in the world, and understand that all of us are coming from a different experience. All of us are coming from a different expression. And the truth of the matter is, as Reverend Ann was reading in the Science of Mind textbook, is that it's all still one and the same. That it's coming from that place of the divine presence, that energy out of that nothingness, that unformed substance, that we are being molded into the person and the personality of who we are today. It's like we are in that universal glob of Play-Doh. That each of us is coming from that unformed substance, and we're brought into this life, and we're kind of manipulated and molded and squished and pushed into and poked on and formed into who we are today. That out of that same substance, that same nothingness, that same Play-Doh, universal Play-Doh, we are showing up in the person of who we are. And we have the power and the presence available to us, again, as it said in that reading, to the degree in which we understand that. if we can understand that we are part of this malleable, unformed substance, and through the power of the mind, that we can interject into that, we can mold that clay and that Play-Doh into something even more magnificent than what it began to be. So if there's something that we're not quite comfortable with, then we can have some influence upon changing that and reforming that. And Play-Doh, sometimes it gets a little hard in places, and sometimes it gets a little flaky, and pieces of it start to fall off. Life is like that. There's parts of us that get a little hardened and a little flaky, and it begins to peel off. But we still have the inner essence of who we are, and that comes from that place of the divine presence. That comes from that place of love. It comes from that place of truth. It comes from that place of joy and peace and harmony. That's the essence of who we are. And sometimes we have to squish our Play-Doh around in order to bring a little bit more of that up to the surface and bring it out into who we are. So it begins by respecting the differences of who you are as an individual, respecting your life experience, what brought you to this place in this time, in this moment, so that you could be all that you are meant to be, and yet there's still more to be done. So maybe we get to massage ourselves, and maybe we can massage each other in the way in which we respect each other, the way in which we engage and interact with each other. There's an opportunity in this time, in this space, that we know as 2019, that we can interact with the world at large, and we can begin to bring forth a greater essence, a greater truth, a greater sense of love and joy and harmony. And we begin to do that with the power of our mind, with the presence of who we are. So I invite you to, as you begin to realize that and recognize that's one of the reasons why we show up in community. That's one of the reasons why we show up in centers of spiritual living, so that we can remind ourselves that there's still more to be experienced. There's still more to be expressed. We can bring more joy into this world, and we know the world needs joy. We can bring more love into the world, and there's certainly this is the time where we need to bring more love into the world, because that's the counteractive measure to fear, is to bring love into the world. And the love begins here, the love of self, for all that you've gone through, that all that you may be faced with, that all that you may be going through right now, to love the self. And as you do that, you will begin to love the other, because the other is just a reflection of your perception of this essence, this unformed substance that's showing up in the world. We give that, it's a back and forth kind of interaction, that as we are giving out, we are receiving back in. So this is a time, and this is our place to begin to respect that differences at a metaphysical level, at a high consciousness level, not at the level of what's showing up in the behavior and in the form that's already there, because that's already been done. That's already been put out there. When we look out there and we see that, that's the result, that's the effect of something that's already happened. If you want that to change, then you begin by changing and reflecting upon what's going on in the present mind right here and right now. If you're feeling fear, that's what you're going to see. If you're feeling that there's something not right, then that's what you're going to see. So begin by changing within. your emotion, your feeling, and your awareness. Bring yourself into a place of feeling love. Bring yourself into a place of feeling joy. And again, I think that's why we show up in community, so that we can have that experience, that we can celebrate together, that we can interact with each other in a safe and loving environment. And if we can do that even just for this moment, then what we do throughout the rest of the week will be energized by that. We'll be motivated by that. We'll be driven by that. So raise up in this time your highest expectations. Raise up your greatest sense of love. Raise up your greatest sense of joy, so that you can go out back into the world and create a place that works for all. That's our goal. That's our purpose. And we have that purpose and that joy and that opportunity to bring about a greater experience in life. So I invite you, let's keep on doing that. Let's keep on bringing more of that into our experience and the experience of the world. And I hope that you continue to do your gratitude journal. I hope that you continue to show up in community. I hope that you continue to show up in that place of love and joy, because then we will see that love and that joy and that experience out there in life. So with that, I want to take this opportunity to bring us into a place of peace and calm. So just for a moment, close your eyes if you will. And then if you would, repeat after me. I am love. I am joy. I am peace. And I am calm. And so it is. Thank you for being a part of this service today, and thank you for your love and your joy and your peace and your calm. I so do appreciate each and every one of you. Namaste.